Constituency by constituency. In this budget that Yari presented to you, I have facts, constituency by constituency.
Get ready for the ultimate political showdown every Sunday at 6 p.m. Join the dynamic Fᴏʟʟᴏᴡ, the trusted guide through the maze of politics and current affairs. Political Roundtable,
where the sharpest mind dissect the hottest topic shaping our world today.
Don't miss out on the conversation everyone will be talking about.
Join Fᴏʟʟᴏᴡ as he dives deep into the heart of the matters, exploring the issues that matters most to you.
And there is no subsidy in that sector, according to the government. So what you have, and the government is very reluctant to accept this, that we are funding the discos, they are cash strapped. And so the government is trying to raise money for them. And that is why...
Tune in to Political Roundtable every Sunday at 6 p.m. only on Mainland 98.3 FM. Political Roundtable, where politics meets passion. Stay informed, stay engaged. Stay engaged.
Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos.
It's time for Political Roundtable, Mainland 98.3 FM. My name is Sağ. This is the show where we look at the major issues in the political space. Yes, a bit under the weather, but we just have to get the job done. It's very important that we get the job done. And Barrister Curtis Adigba is with me in the studio this evening, and together we're going to be flying the ship of the roundtable, looking at three very important issues this evening. Nation building will be the first conversation this evening, and Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, the former president, and retired General T.Y. Danjuma are talking about the quality of leadership in Nigeria, and what they are saying is that, look, on a daily basis, the quality of leadership is dwindling in Nigeria, basically saying that, look, things are not looking good when it comes to the kinds of leaders we've been producing in recent time. So we're going to start with that, really, because again, what is nation building when leadership has a lot of questions around it? So the simple question for us on the roundtable this evening is how can we get it right? What are the indices? What are the issues? What are the areas to look at? How do we get it right with leadership? There are nations in the 60s and 70s that were considered underdeveloped and developing just like Nigeria. Today, those nations have risen beyond expectations. They are now the models of development in the world, whereas Nigeria continues to go down as a nation with all of the potentials. It's just sad that Nigeria today still continues to struggle as an underdeveloped or maybe developing nation, depending on what you think about where we are as a country. So the first conversation this evening, nation building, Obasanjo, Danjuma, decry dwindling quality of leadership in Nigeria. And so we're going to be asking ourselves this evening, how can we get it right? What do we do as a nation? Is it a lost situation? Is there any hope really that we can get it right with leadership? So that's the first issue on the roundtable this evening. The ministerial appointment, I think that was the major issue in the week. There's been rumors, we've been hearing that the president was going to have a cabinet reshuffle. Eventually it happened during the week, and mixed reactions continue to trail President Tinubu's major cabinet reshuffle. So what are the major takeaways? What are the things to look at really? Does it bring any glimmer of hope? Are we hopeful really that this reshuffle really can change the trajectory of leadership as far as this current administration is concerned? A lot of reactions really. We'll look at those reactions from the organized private sector, from the opposition political parties, from technocrats. Everyone has one or two things to say about what has happened when it comes to a cabinet reshuffle, the first major cabinet reshuffle under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But on the roundtable this evening, our question is simple: what are the major takeaways? What do we take away from what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has just done? 5 ministers dropped, 10 redeployed, 7 nominated for appointment as ministers, waiting confirmation from the Senate. So that's the second issue on the roundtable this evening. And then the last issue, the presidential election in the US is upon us. It's very close. The 5th of November, Americans will be electing a new president. I think early votes have already started. Ballot mail votings have started. E-votings have started.
I think about 35 million
votes have already been cast. So the elections are already on the way. But the final day, the D-Day, is the 5th of November. Very close to us here, and a lot is happening. I must say, the campaigns have become very intense. The presidential candidates are everywhere. Influential figures, from the politicians to the musicians to actors, business owners, have been doing all manner of things really. Some of them very strange actually, with what we've known of the kind of democracy that America runs. Elon Musk is in the news really for some very funny antics when it comes to elections in the United States. We're also going to look at that. But again, Michelle Obama,
because of his daughter, converting to transgender.
We're going to talk about some of these interests really, and some of the things that shape the conversations around the politics of the United States of America. But Michelle Obama seems to have gotten a bit personal. And while she's doing that, she's asking some very pertinent questions in her efforts to get the votes out for Kamala Harris. But Trump seems to be speaking to Muslim voters. He seems to be talking to them because, again, there are concerns really from Muslims in the United States who think that the Biden administration has not done enough really with the war between Israel and the Palestinians. So, U.S. presidential election update: Michelle Obama gets personal as Trump. Who's Muslim voters? What are the latest permutations? Has anything changed? Are we still looking at 7 swing states? Has it gone beyond the swing states? What are the polls saying? What are the chances of Donald Trump, who I think at this last lap of the race is looking good really from what the polls are saying? Is it about a gender thing? Is it that Americans are not ready for a female president? Can Kamala Harris still win the election? We're going to get to that really. I know
the polls have failed so many times in the past.
Yes, but we'll look at it. I know Mr. Curtis is so eager really to get onto that particular conversation. But of course, we're going to try and see what's going on. Really, we'll spend some good time really talking about that, because again, we're talking about a unipolar world where anybody likes it or not, and when the United States sneezes, the world catches cold. So it's just very important that we focus on what is happening in the United States, because of the global impact whoever wins would have. So nice to have you in the studio, Mr. Curtis Adigba.
Thanks for having me. Good evening, listeners.
All right, we're streaming the show live on Facebook, so you can actually be a part of the show by joining us on Facebook and YouTube. You can also listen to the show via the Radio Garden platform. Of course, it's an interactive show. Later on, we're going to open the phone lines for you to be a part of the show. Of course, the studio line is 09136 0000410, 09136 0000410. We'll go straight to business. The former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, and ex-chief of army staff, General T.Y. Danjuma, retired, have decried the dwindling quality and standard of leadership in Nigeria. The two statesmen spoke when members of the League of Northern Democrats, we have all manner of groups really. This is a group called the League of Northern Democrats, LND, paid them courtesy visits in Abeokuta and Lagos respectively. The two statesmen spoke when members of the League paid them a courtesy visit Obasanjo promised to be the patron of the group, asking it to expand its operations to include the rest of Nigeria. I said he's not going to do anything that is regional, make it a Nigerian thing, and he has promised that he's going to, be a part of that as their patron. And Danjuma challenged those currently in public office to look beyond themselves and take immediate steps to stem the tide of poor leadership, to leave behind the nation of future generations to inherit. Obasanjo said anytime the group metamorphoses into a league of Nigerian Democrats, not Northern Democrats, come back to me and I'll be your patron. I share your concern. That's the Chief Olusegun Obasanjo telling this league of Northern Democrats. I share your concern of the situation in Nigeria, but if you are a national league, I'll join you and even be your patron. If I cannot be active because I'm getting old, of course, I would have been able to do my part. While T.Y. Danjuma said the quality of leadership of the country has become problematic and it keeps going down and down and down. So, both elder statesmen also putting our minds back to the issue of the quality of leadership in Nigeria. We have a soundbite here from the former president, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, also talking about leadership that comes with thinking, leadership that is methodical, leadership that has character, and how to handle tough situations as a leader. Well, can we ever get it right? Let me start with that.
We can't get it right if we want to get it right. But it's a complicated process in getting it right. And it first of all starts by the people realizing the kind of people they want in leadership position. Now, President Obasanjo and former Chief of Army Staff,
Chief of
T.Y. Danjuma,
retired,
are men that in a real society, in a society where things are done properly, can be questioned to provide answers to why Nigeria is where it is today.
How did it start? How did we get to this point?
I say this with all sense of responsibility. If a group of robbers go to raid a bank,
yes,
and they are all arrested, the responsibility they bear depends on the role they played in the robbery.
And give some leads to.
Yeah. There are those who just gave information. But if all of them are arrested, they'll be punished depending on what role
they played
in the robbery. And I think that former President Obasanjo and T.Y. Danjuma also will be arrested as criminals, but maybe played smaller part compared to some others. And I will explain that to you.
As regards where we are as a nation.
Where we are today. President Obasanjo, the only Nigerian who had 3 opportunities to move this country
from one step to
whatever he wanted to do with the country.
Those 3 opportunities came his way.
Head of state, he didn't plan a coup, but there was a coup.
That failed, and then brought him in.
Became head of state, and you will give credit to him that as military head of state, there were things that he accomplished by military fiat.
Fiat, yes.
Some of the roads that were built in this country, the
Land Use Act, so many.
Land Use Act. Well, so people said, it was because he wanted to acquire land for his farm.
But it's become at least a major part of our policy when it comes to land administration.
Refineries and some of these things happened during that time. And then he left the scene after he handed over to.
Which was also, the handover was also a major achievement. Really.
Controversial. Because though it was a major achievement, but there were those who believed that the government at the time actually manipulated the process to produce one individual.
And of course, was not favorably disposed to an Awolowo presidency. Maybe.
Yes, and when the matter went to court, of course, you saw the controversy around
2/3 of 19.
However, we had President Shagari,
who came in,
and the Minister of Transport then, Maro Diko, and the MPN's chairman, Akinloye. And at the end of the day, after the coup, we all saw what happened with Buhari. Muhammadu Buhari
came in,
and some of the exposures and all that we got to know about what happened.
War against the discipline.
And then we had that long military regime until 1998 again, when Abu Salami came in.
Before we get to 1999, because for sake of proper conversation and a bit of history, You've brought us really from the Obasanjo regime as military head of state.
So then we go to 93.
Now, even before 93, I think it's always very important for us to also talk about the Babangida regime. That 8 years of military rule.
Yes.
Because again,
the 8 years of military rule, of course, we had the IMF prescriptions that led to the devaluation of the currency. We have the privatization of government key strategic assets that led to people close to the then president, his business fronts and all of them acquiring. Even Obasanjo also had done some level of privatization in those days. You remember when certain assets of government were sold to individuals. And then we had, from Babangida, we moved to June 12, 1993. That election, of course, was inconclusive. But then we had elected governors, elected the National Assembly. And then there was the coup that eventually brought in
Abacha.
After Abacha died, and Abiola also died, Abdul Salami became the head of state. And then brought a new democratic experience that produced Olusegun Obasanjo
in 1999
as president
again.
In 1999. Was in power for 4
against
years.
all odds, really.
Against all
from
odds.
prison to president.
Yes. I mean, the leading candidates before he was brought onto the scene, Alex Ekweme was coasting to victory in the PDP to pick that ticket when Obasanjo from nowhere was brought in by Babangida and co. And then you had Olufalaye, who was the candidate
of the AD,
and then the other parties, the MPP and all of them. So at the end of the day, Obasanjo won. He had all the opportunity
in 1999.
In 1999,
what were those specific opportunities, really, for the sake of proper conversation again?
So one of the things that he could have
that you think were opportunities that he failed to utilize.
So one of the things that he could have done was that he should have encouraged a very robust National Assembly. National Assembly that can hold to account the president and every government official at the federal level. Okay? But all he wanted was a specific person to be president of the Senate. While majority of the members wanted late Chuba Kadibo, the Oyi of Oyi. He wanted Evans and Werem. And of course, he got his way, working through Atiku and all that. Evans and Werem was there. And because the members still didn't want Evans and Werem, after a short while, there was a coup within the Senate, and Chuba Kadibo emerged
eventually.
And because the president and his vice president didn't want to Kadibo, again there was a rupture,
another arrangement
that led to the man giving anticipated approval, as they called it.
And so they went after him again.
Was removed, and Anyim came in, and he saw to the Anyim was there until the end of that period. I think that first year.
Yes.
And then the second time that Obasanjo won, we had first of all it was Wabara, I think.
Yes.
It was Wabara, and then it was after Wabara
that this
Senator Ken Namani.
Yes,
who eventually frustrated
the third-term ambition
in conjunction with Masari, the third-term ambition.
So used 5 Senate presidents.
Yes. So that's one of the area. The second area was that President Obasanjo had ministers that were largely unaccountable to this country. Look at the Minister of Works then, the late Tony Aneni. With the
Mr. Fix-It.
The huge budget that Works got. Nothing was accomplished.
Major roads.
In fact, the story was that the funds were diverted to the PDP for campaigns. Look at the refineries. The awards of contract in billions given to.
So for that 8 years, none of the refineries came back to life.
All the billions of dollars spent on turnaround maintenance, none happened. And some of the contracts went to a very important financier of the PDP, Emeka Ofo. Nothing happened to these refineries. That's another missed opportunity. Third missed opportunity was the fact that, yes, he submitted the bill for the EFCC.
Yes.
The EFCC started and was doing very well. But the bribery allegations and all the other that's happened at the National Assembly, and the EFCC led by Nuhu Ribadu then turned the blind eye. Blind eye to what was happening in the National Assembly. That, of course, laid the foundation for the kind of corruption we have in the country today, that once you want anything from the
Just
National
putting
Assembly, you have to go there and bribe them. And that also created image problem for the EFCC, that the EFCC could be manipulated. The fourth opportunity, which he also missed, was failing to entrench democratic practice. A situation whereby
in the political space.
Yes, a situation whereby if he didn't like you as a governor, yes, the governor can be corrupt. But then there are
follow due process.
Yes, we had situations where 3-4 members of the
were impeaching governors
can be impeached, can be used to impeach governors.
And it started with him.
And then we had also the issue of him saying this coming election
is a do-or-die affair.
And we had elections that were conducted under him to be the worst
ever.
In fact, the one that brought in his successor, the beneficiary said this election was deeply flawed.
And may it never happen again.
And that he will accept whatever the verdict of the Supreme Court.
Even if they nullify it.
Was. Yes. But unfortunately, the court went ahead and used technicality to allow the election stand. So when you look back, and then don't forget that at that first time, Nigerians were talking about having a benevolent dictator. In other words, a dictator who uses democratic norms and then trying to ram things through. If he had done, I will use the 8 years that have been given by Nigerians
to create institutions,
and strengthen them.
Institutions,
lay foundation for a modern Nigeria.
From 1999, the fourth experiment.
Whoever took over from him would have built on those institutions. Unfortunately, as soon as Yar'Adua came in, just shortly before he left, was then he sold the Port Harcourt refinery to Dangote and Femi Otedola, the consortium that they put together. And when Yar'Adua came, he revoked the sale because of what he was told. He also started Transcorp, which was a brilliant idea. And a lot of people felt that Transcorp was going to do so much to encourage economic development, stimulate the economy and all that. But then the whole story around Transcorp, they felt that he was supposed to be the biggest shareholders and all that, also created image problems for Transcorp. So I think this is his own case. Now, when you look at T.Y. Danjuma, for instance, he was the chief of army staff. And since he retired, he has become a wealthy, big-time
stupendously wealthy.
Now, after retirement, the only time we saw him again was when he was defense minister to Obasanjo. Briefly for some time, and then they parted ways because they had disagreement. But this is the man who has made so much money by the allocation
of oil
that he gave himself or was given to him by a previous government that he has held on to up to this moment. Okay? He's such a wealthy man. He's the sole person responsible for handpicking a governor in Taraba, one of the worst performing states in the country. And you want to look back and ask yourself, if he was that influential and powerful,
even in Taraba State, what has been his impact?
In from Taraba, all the governors that he has assisted in producing in the state, they haven't done anything well for the people. So this is why I say, when you look critically, these guys are also actors in the crime scene.
How bad the government run
is today.
All right, well, but now because people will ask you that.
But that doesn't stop them from talking.
But now
they have hindsight.
Let us work with the idea of working with the message and leaving the messenger. Because again, from what you've analyzed, that the messenger also has some problems. Or they are also a part of the problem.
I have problem with that
idea of messenger and message.
Now let me demonstrate it to you.
Yes.
If President Tinubu says today that I have listened to the sufferings, to the yearnings of Nigerians, and to that extent, I have decreed that fuel will start selling for 500 tomorrow. Right?
Yes.
If I say the same thing, notwithstanding that Tinubu's policies brought us here, but if he says so tomorrow, the people who will welcome it. Do you understand?
Yes.
But that doesn't mean he's not responsible for what has happened in the past. Now, this whole idea, sometimes it is the messenger that gives credibility to the message.
So where is the message coming from?
Where is the message coming from?
Or where is the message
if
coming
an
from?
armed robber is preaching against robbery, can we say we should take his message and leave him the messenger? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I'm with you.
So they all have contributed
To where we are.
To where we are today. And let me tell you, in this country, they have also been responsible for influencing even those that came after them as leaders of this country. So it's difficult for them to completely detach themselves. And you know, it's become a trend in Nigeria. When people are in government, they fail woefully.
And then when they're out of government, they have solutions to all the problems.
They just suddenly stumble on the solutions to our problems. So I don't think that any former leader in this country should find the moral courage to begin to speak to what we have right now, because they've all participated in bringing this country to our knees.
Well, Mr. Curtis, again, going back to Obasanjo, because it's always been a major argument. Oh, that he came in, brought in several reforms. He had some of the best, ministerial appointments. He was able to get the debt forgiveness. Of course, we saw the recapitalization of the banks. And that look, he did it best. And that look, what has others been able to do? Why didn't they build on the little he was able to do? And it's just wrong to continue to blame, former President Obasanjo for the woes we have in the land. But there are also people, like you also pointed, I would say that, look, America, for example, had founding fathers who understood that, look, it's not just what you do in power, but the legacies you leave behind and the institutions you are able to entrench that would outlive you. So that no matter who becomes a president or who comes after you, the institutions can guide them. The institutions can model them. And that nothing will change, really. So, how terribly did you think Chief Olusegun Obasanjo failed, really, in building strong institutions?
I think it's not about failed the way he intended them. Let me give you a few examples, because you talked about America. Of course, the first president was Washington. Now, Washington was produced by the Federalist Party. The Federalist Party had people like James Hamilton, Madison, Benjamin Franklin, and all these guys. But out of the 7 founders of America, 5 of them went on to be president. And they lived by the code that they agreed upon in Philadelphia to form a country. And one of the things that happened was that President John Adams, who succeeded Washington, right, wasn't happy that the Democratic Republican, there used to be one party before they parted ways, had defeated him, and they were bringing Thomas Jefferson. They felt that these Democratic Republicans cannot continue to lift up the country the way the Federalists wanted it. But the reason that the country was bigger than any political party or any individual, and that was why in March 1801 they transferred power to Thomas Jefferson, or the Democratic Republican, marking the first time that there's a free exchange of power between one party and the other. Democracy. Now, and that has become a culture and tradition. And one of the things that you will notice in America is that whether the candidate that is elected is a Democrat or is a Republican, there is an overriding and overwhelming interest, which is the American national strategic interest.
And that nothing can shake.
The difference is the way the political parties go about
their campaigns and ideology.
Yes, but how they go to preserve and sustain that interest, So, and no one individual can take credit for building a country like America, because it's been one after the other, incremental effort. You have Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Thomas Jefferson. You had people like the Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt, Franklin. You had Abraham Lincoln. You have William McKinley. Some of them you could go back and say, this Harry Truman. This person started.
They were specific, really.
The Roosevelt, the New Deal. Talk about social security. All kind of leaders
that has outlived them, really.
Yes.
Legacies.
Yes, and they did all these things. The only president that had problem with corruption in America is President Ulysses Grant. It was under him that corruption was terrible.
Terrible.
But the people who succeeded him, one after the other, roll back corrupt practices in government. And every time you see them act, they act in the overwhelming interest of the country. You recall that in 2000, there was the election between George Bush and Al Gore. It came down to the state of Florida. Where we were
the
talking
counting and recounting,
about is it 237 votes? The matter went down to the Supreme Court. And when the verdict was given, Al Gore said, I don't agree with the reason of the judges, but I accept the judgment in the overwhelming interest of our country. Because this country, we cannot allow this country to hang, the fate of this country to
just because of elections of our own interest.
So you see, that same man Al Gore had the opportunity to run again, but he turned it down because he felt that someone was better than him.
Yes.
So this is the whole thing about nation building. Now, one of the things that Obasanjo could have done on his way out, Obasanjo could have allowed the interplay of democratic forces for his successor to emerge. You saw how he used the EFCC then
to chase out Atiku away from the party.
Orderly,
even Kenina Mani.
Yeah.
You know, there are people who said that, look, we had some very brilliant minds in the Senate and the National Assembly when Obasanjo was leaving. But they never returned.
No, they never returned because he had a grievance list.
Especially for people who were against
yes,
and they all never returned to the Senate. Yes.
This guy who was a senior advocate, who was the Senate Majority Leader then. Smart guy.
Even Kenina Mani too. He wrote against it, and it was the reason why he never returned to the Senate.
He also never returned to the Senate.
Brilliant minds, actually.
Very brilliant people, independent-minded people. They never returned because the party denied them tickets.
Yes.
So I understand that he had contributed his part, but he could have done much more for this country. Okay, the whole idea about the National Assembly holding the executive to ransom started under him. It was under Obasanjo that decided that they would be in charge of their budgeting alone. It came out, yes, he condemned them and called them robbers. But what did he do? That was a fight he shouldn't have backed off from. And today we are paying the price. Can you imagine? I think the current year we're talking about close to 200 billion as budget of the National Assembly.
Yes, almost 300 billion.
So, you could look. There's nobody who is completely useless. Only Obasanjo has spent close to, as leader of this country, about 11 to 12 years. So he had the best and the better opportunity
in terms of timing
to have put this country on a trajectory by his conduct, by his behavior, by his examples, the force of his examples, and then created that environment that forces of democracy will work and produce his successor.
His choice of the ailing late President Yar'Adua, how damaging do you think that entire decision is also to our democracy? Because look, practically when he was campaigning for Yar'Adua, he knew he was sick. We remember when he was asking him, Yar'Adua, are you dead? They say you are dead. Because again, the number of letters President Obasanjo has written since leaving power, there are people who think that, look, he's the man that knows more than every other person. He fights with every other leader that has been elected as president. And if Yar'Adua had even stayed longer in power, maybe they would have had trouble. So I've read a number of books written by President Obasanjo, former President Obasanjo, of course, My Command, and the latest one. What was the latest one? There's this latest one he just wrote. My Watch, yes, thank you, Sandra. I consider those books so that I'll leave the books alone. But the decision to bring Yar'Adua on board when he knew that, look, this man was sick, because Yar'Adua now brought in Jonathan again.
Bring Jonathan.
The death of
like they say, hindsight is 20/20. Again, you could have good intentions, and how
You manage those intentions. Yeah.
People see what you do. I think that the people who believe that the former president didn't want to leave power, that he was privy to this guy's medical record, he brought him in the hope that he would not survive the campaigns, and then he could use that as an opportunity to sit tight and say
that was a conspiracy theory.
Because if you look at the constitution, if a major candidate dies before
the elections,
so close to the election will not go on. So a lot of people said he did that knowing that this guy was not well, so that he could sit
and that he had a terminal sickness.
That's one. The other thing was, they said, he brought in Jonathan, perceived to be a weakling. Because don't you forget that Donald Duke was also in contention.
Even stronger people from Nigeria, stronger politicians from the South.
He, in a subsequent interview, was asked why he overlooked people like Odile,
Donald Duke,
especially Odile, who has spent so much money.
And Donald Duke who looked like that young, vibrant, leader.
What he was doing in Cross River State at the time, based on what we understood. And he said, well, I had options. And as a leader, I see things differently from the way you guys.
And then Jonathan was the option.
Yes. So, again, the conspiracy theory continued that he brought in Jonathan, knowing that Yar'Adua was terminally sick, and Jonathan was going to succeed him, and because Jonathan was so weak, he will continue to be the president by controlling him. But of course, that didn't happen, because Edwin Clark became his political godfather and started warning Obasanjo to stay away from Jonathan, and that led to the series of letters that
eventually led to him tearing the party, the membership card of the PDP.
Yes, and then when Jonathan wanted to seek his own term, initially he said, no, you are not going to do it. But after meeting with Jonathan and some elders from Niger Delta, he came out and said, well, Jonathan has the right, he's also a citizen, and that if you kill me, Yaba will bury me. You remember?
Of course, yes.
So he supported Jonathan to gain that term, and thereafter they fell apart when he wanted to go for a second term, and then he turned against Jonathan, and then at that point supported Buhari in 2015. But the point that I want to make is that if you are looking for a man whose character inspires others or will inspire or motivate others, Obasanjo is not likely to be your best candidate. I've read 2 books, one by his friend James Oluleye, who described him in that book as the only man that he knows who can plot both evil and good with equal efficiency. And then I read Bittersweet Experience, written by his first wife, Remy, who says whenever there is peace in his household, he's not happy about it. He thrives in confusion and controversy. So when you look at those 2 things, then you begin to say, okay, it was not exactly what we saw in Nigeria.
The way he ruled for 8 years.
The way he ruled for 8 years. You saw the controversy between him and his then vice president about the PTDF, about who spent money for which woman, the election in Ekiti, so all kind of things. And these are things that actually didn't bode well for the country. But I wouldn't say that he was a total failure as president.
But what were the bright sides, really? What were maybe some achievements, so that it's all looking gloomy and bad, in analysis of former president?
So there were a few things that he accomplished. One, he wanted to strengthen our banking
system
institutions, and he allowed the then CBN governor Charles Soludo
to do his job.
Yes, to do that. So, 2, he created an environment whereby those who felt that the laws just existed for the sake of it and nothing could happen to them, at least entertain some fears that if we are not careful, we could be dealt with. So you will give that to him.
We saw major prosecutions, I think the former IG, Tafa Balogun, and we saw some ministers too.
The former governor and the late former governor of Bayelsa State,
Alamesia,
and a couple of other governors. That, and then we also saw that he was intolerant of people who took the laws into their hands. You remember, of course, people will look at this thing differently.
Yeah.
What happened at Odi, Zakibiam, and
yeah.
all that? It was an attempt to instill discipline,
and the fact that he was able to deal with Ghanaian Dams, the man from Niger Delta, and all these other guys who were causing trouble.
I also thought that he handled the Sharia issue very well. In the sense that it did not implode the country into a religious conflict. He had said, okay, leave it. Over time,
when Sharia started in Zamfara,
it was going to fizzle out. And so these were some bright spots that I think he had. And again, you must also give it to him. He's courageous. He says what he wants to say. He doesn't care how people feel about it.
What about international reckoning, Barrister Curtis? People have said that, look, he was a man that had that stature, character, and he was able to really...
But that was diminished by the perception that he was bribing the National Assembly to amend the Constitution for him to stay in power forever. Did you watch his interview with Simon Sakor?
Of course I did.
Okay, so I mean that gives you
an insight into
a window into how
people,
the foreign
people perceive his government
community.
All right,
and then it didn't help that one of his aides, Andy Oba, took raw cash into the United States through the presidential aircraft.
So he also had those little issues.
I mean, if you go to the European headquarters and in the United States and all that, there are people who will tell you that he's not as clean as he wants you to believe. That he's also corrupt through some networks of friends and relatives and then others. So
all right, let's bring it home to this leadership, the current leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Obasanjo was on TV recently. There was an exclusive with a TV station where he actually said a whole lot of things. But he's talking about methodical governance, when it comes to planning. Don't just make policy statements without plan. We have this soundbite, just a little soundbite really about the policy implementation crisis or process that we have with this current administration. Of course, we have this twin policy of the administration. Subsidy is gone, floating of the currency, and what I consider the third one, which is the aggressive revenue drive. The former president is saying that, look, you can't be a president who has no plan and then jumps into policies that are going to have serious consequences on the ordinary people. We have those sound bites. Let's quickly listen to what the former president said about that, and then we'll come back to talk about really planning before making policy statements. It's still Political Roundtable, Mainland 98.3 FM. My name is Sahid Fuad. I have Barrister Curtis Adigba in the studio, and it's a Political Roundtable. We're looking at three major issues. Let's quickly listen to the former president, and we'll be right back.
What do you say of a Nigerian president who came to office without a plan? Who came to office without a plan. And then he woke up and just said, 3-point plan. What are the 3 points? What are they going to achieve? Who are the people who have worked on it? You come and you just open your mouth and make a pronouncement on something that has not been studied. Let me again give you an example. When I was military head of state, we decided to really be part of the frontline states to fight the last vestiges of colonialism and apartheid. And we were determined. So, as a result of our policy, our pronouncement, our determination, then we became known as member of the frontline state, even though we were thousands of kilometers from the front line. And we decided that we will do what needs to be done. And then we worked with the frontline states. And where it was necessary that we go the whole hog with them, we did. And at the end of the day, we succeeded. But it cost us something. But what it cost us could have been wasted, even on anything. But our commitment make African countries and the international community to take us seriously and respect us. And they respected us for it. And that's leadership.
Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos.
All right, that was the voice of the former president, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, also talking about leaders, and how they should or how they are expected to handle policy statements. Of course, talking about imagine having a president who made pronouncements without a plan. I think that's the most important part of that conversation. Of course, he gave an example of what he had also done in the past about a particular policy issue. But so that we can close this particular topic and move to the next one, what do you think about Chief Olusegun Obasanjo? I assume he's actually talking about the current president, making policy pronouncements, jumping into policies without a clear-cut plan. What do you think? Do you think that's a statement that we can take to the bank and agree with completely?
Unfortunately, he didn't mention
who he's talking to or who he's talking about.
And the particular thing that he did.
Yeah, because I think there's a disconnect somewhere.
He did talk about it. He just, I think it was like just speaking about, generally speaking about how he governed. And certain, let's look at debt forgiveness, for instance.
Yes.
I think it was very intentional.
And he got it.
He got it. But again, there's a school of thought that said that it was because he was naive when it comes to understanding how the economy works. Instead of repaying that loan, he should have used that funds to build critical infrastructure that the country needed. And those infrastructures country in the United
States, keep borrowing. Yeah.
So why it is an achievement averted to building critical infrastructure.
That's the time,
argument, and that's why actually to do. Look at how indebted we are now. And when you talk to the government economists, they'll tell you, when you benchmark it against GDP to debt rate, we're still very comfortable. So at that time, just look at how much it was, the money then.
What
we could have done with that money at the time. Could have expanded our rail system, which was what Buhari tried to do with the Chinese loans and all that. But I felt that he could have done much more with that money.
There are people who also think that the former president is a man that wants to satisfy the international community, that he was a man that wanted to position himself as a global influential figure. I think there are attempts in the past for him to become the UN Secretary General, which he failed to achieve. And people felt that, look, even when he was in government, he was always willing, really, to satisfy the international community. The case of Bakassi comes into conversation here. How he ceded some parts of Bakassi to Cameroon that has still become a major talking point.
He had no choice.
Yeah, okay.
Once you submitted to the jurisdiction of the world court,
yes,
you have to obey.
So, but you think he was a man who was trying to rob the ego of the international community?
Yes, of course. I mean, let me give you a practical example. Charles Taylor was brought into the country from Liberia by President Obasanjo in an attempt to diffuse the war situation in Liberia. And so he was provided a residence, I think, in Cross River State. But at some point, this was the information that was put out.
Yes, he brought him in, gave him protection.
At some point, Charles Taylor had to leave the country.
And the same man ran after him.
With the knowledge, as it was then said, or alleged, with the knowledge of the president, who incidentally was on a state visit to the United States.
And then
George Bush was the president
then, yes.
When the news came out
that Charles Taylor was leaving,
that he had left the country, had disappeared, President Bush said he was not going to see President Obasanjo unless Taylor was found and arrested. And pronto,
he was arrested.
Deployed the security in this country.
He was picked up.
And he was picked up. Of course, he did a lot to cut the international community. And if you ask me, when it comes to recognition from the international community, no one beats him.
Yes.
Yes, among the former leaders in this country, no one.
All right.
Up to this moment.
Okay, well, I think we've
handed over twice.
Twice, yeah. I think that's also one reason why.
Yeah.
Just like Jonathan, now I think the National Committee respects him a lot, because of that singular act of, a military head of state handing over to a civilian government, and then Jonathan, of course, having a smooth transition for the first time, to an opposition political party. Well,
that of even
Jonathan, yes,
rates higher than that of Obasanjo.
You think so?
And I was
military head of state when Africa, leaders.
I mean, during his second coming as president.
All right.
If the NPP had won that election, the election that he said was a do or die,
yes.
You think it would handed over power to the NPP candidate?
We can't say, but because being a do or die was not even going to give an opportunity for an opposition to win.
That's why I say that of Jonathan rates higher, because you see, you had a situation where
a sitting president
whose
own election,
yes,
not that you were,
and he was being told by his close backers, friends,
that you won this election, don't hand over,
and then
don't concede.
He left all of them. They went to his bedroom and made that call to call.
When the women movement was going on,
yes,
he conceded. I think there's a little. I think he's put out a statement recently that that was the most challenging part of his presidency.
Yes, he said
that moment to take a decision.
Yes,
to say that no matter what anybody was saying,
that singular
I'm going to concede
has preserved his legacy. Today we have people looking backwards and say, "Oh, we made a mistake by voting out President Jonathan." You understand? That nostalgia.
That was actually a good man.
Yes, the nostalgia that he was a good man, that he was better than those who succeeded him.
And here we are now.
And here we are. And then this is how you know a country that is in a ditch. When you have a new president, and people are longing for the former president.
So every time you have a new one, people now see the other one as an angel as better.
That country is in a ditch.
Really? So any country that has a situation where a new leader comes,
yes,
and the people begin to long
for the former one, and that's what has been happening in Nigeria. When Buhari came, some people say, "Oh, how we wish Jonathan was here." When Buhari now left and Tinubu now came, if you ask Nigerians today, do you prefer Buhari or Tinubu? They'll say Buhari.
Well, Political Roundtable Mainland 98.3 FM. Let's quickly go to the cabinet reshuffle by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It's been met with all manner of reactions and reviews, actually. Fires 5 ministers, newly nominated for appointment 7. Luckily, those 7 came with portfolio. And then, of course, he has reassigned 10 others. I think we already have all of the details, so we'll waste too much time talking about that. But there are also major decisions that were taken, with that cabinet reshuffle. The idea to abolish the Niger Delta ministry, for the regional development ministry. It's been causing all manner of reactions, especially from the people of the Niger Delta. The sports development ministry too has been scrapped, and all of their functions have been domiciled with the sports commission. That's also been getting a lot of reactions, because again, what Edwin Clark is saying is that there was really no basis for the scrapping of the Niger Delta ministry. Also, the former minister of sports, Dalong, has also opposed the scrapping of the sports ministry, and so there's been a lot of conversations. There's been a lot of. We're going to start with the reshuffle itself. There are people who felt that they were hoping that the president was going to downsize, was going to reduce his, again, because he was a president that also talked about keying into the recommendations of the Orosoye report. But firing 5, adding 7 to the list and reassigning 7 does not look like a president who was willing to reduce the size of his cabinet.
He needed to replace Better Edu and Simon Lalong.
Yes.
So that's why he added 2.
So just to make it when people were thinking that you probably just merge more ministries, reduce what we have.
In fairness to the president, I think that his absence, said to be a working leave, underperformed, because we were given the
impression,
the feelers that were thrown out there by Onanuga and some others, that the president was actually working on like earth-shaking kind of rejigging of
that he had left, to fight any form of interference and influence. Yeah,
it came like a whimper, really. But with fairness to him, like I said, the Constitution ties his hand to some extent. Now, under the Nigerian Constitution, in the spirit of national character, fairness, and equity, the Constitution provides that at least a minister from each state.
Yes.
Now, if you go by that provision, it means the president must appoint at least 36 ministers, and then one for
the FCT
that now has the status of a state.
Yes.
That means you have at most
satisfy the constitutional requirements of appointing ministers.
Yes, 37. And I feel that, given what we have on ground, the president should not have exceeded that 37 by 11 more positions, because that's what he did.
And now 50.
Now, 50, I don't even know the number, what it is right now.
48 now,
whether
50.
it is 48 or 50. But however you look at it, I think that the president is not thinking like most Nigerians. I think the president does not understand that the economic situation in this country is hard and painful for most people. While at the same time calling on the people to be patient and to understand, and for government and to make that sacrifice. It doesn't seem like he understands exactly, or that the cost he's making is only for the people and not for himself. Now, you can argue that the ministers are not his personal servants, but these ministers are going to be living on the resources of the country.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important that we understand that they are actually needed. Now, some of the things that, of all the 5 ministers that the president dropped, apart from the one in women affairs, and whose only achievement that I can remember is to go to venue of conferences, where and say, "Why we told you not to go ahead with this conference? Why are you still doing it in the name of?" I would never allow it. Those were the videos that I saw, really, of the things she accomplished. Otherwise, I don't. Let me be frank with you. I don't even remember the names of the 5 ministers that were dropped. Now, having said that, the ones that he also hired, apart from Jumoke Oduwole, and maybe Dr. Nantwe from Plateau State, I've not heard of any one of them.
Yeah.
And so it's still going to be like the same set of people. But they were ministers occupying strategic positions in the government that have not done anything, at least.
So who are the ministers you think you should have also fired? At least the ones that we know are expected.
Let me tell you the ones I did not expect him to fire.
Okay. And then the ones you expect him to fire.
And then from there you make your deduction. In terms of visibility and presence,
yes.
I think I would not have fired the Minister of Interior. Yes, I think he's a young man who is up to the task. I mean, from the public pronouncement and what we have seen,
and his activities actually
I also not fire Festus Keyamo.
Of course, yes, I agree.
I think I will not fire the Attorney General.
Yeah, well, at least he's been busy.
Some sanity.
Yeah.
You know, the scandal about all kind of under table dealings and all that.
So there seems to be some level of sanity.
He got that judgment from the Supreme Court,
which is also something. Yeah.
So, and he has brought dignity and decency to that office,
to that particular as against who we had before.
Yes, I will not fire the Minister of Health.
Okay,
Party. Yeah, I won't fire him. I will also not fire Edu.
Finance.
Not because he has done so much, but at least is constantly briefing the country. And I think that
activities more like activities.
The dysfunction between the physical side and the monetary side is also not helping him so much. So I think that what he needed was a rejig, and I do hope that the minister that was seconded
but you would have still left him.
So I would have left him.
All right.
Yeah, I would have left him. I would also not fire. I think the last minister that I would not have fired. Well, for me, Bosun, the guy in communications, neither here nor there.
The IT man.
Yes, I think he overpromised, and so far he has underdelivered. But I will not.
Has he even delivered anything?
I also not fire the Minister of Information.
Oh yeah, I agree.
He's doing his job. Now, the
fine gentleman, soft spoken,
I would not have fired the Minister of Education, even though he had some misunderstanding about certain
Professor
Tahir Maman. I would not have. Maybe I would have given him another 3 months to watch his dance step and see how he performs. But definitely, they're just waking up. If you are saying it openly, give me the
man knows
why not have spared Matawali, given the controversy
around him
and his association with
Kogi State.
I would have fired him because I don't know what he's doing. I would also have fired the power guy.
Adelabu, so?
Yes, it's all controversy. What has he achieved?
He told you that the collapse was a trip-off, not really a collapse.
So, man, that's me.
What of Dele Alake?
Well, considering that Dele Alake is not in his best position, and given
they are paying him out of position.
Yes, and given the reforms that he has brought into the sector, I would not have fired him.
Okay.
I would not have fired him.
What of Wike?
Well, based on his performance, I would not fire him. But based on the fact that he's taking the attention from critical issues, based on his politics back home, I would have fired him.
Performing well, but behaving badly.
And you see, I said that when I was coming, I said I'm going to enter a bet with you.
All right.
President Tinubu said no minister will be allowed to use more than 3 vehicles.
We are going to go to that. They're cost-cutting measures.
Wike will not obey that instruction.
Because I think they give him new vehicles.
His own is 001 FCT.
Yeah.
2 of them follow each other, and then
they have these riders just ahead. So I'm sure citizen journalism will be in action here. I'm sure Nigerians will be so watchful.
You know, he's a governor.
He's a minister who acts like a governor. No, he's a minister, but who acts like a governor, who has now gotten the power, of almost a governor. But of course, we're going to see if our ministers are going to ride really on 3 vehicles.
So that's one. And then to Edwin Clark.
Yes, it's the Niger Delta ministry.
I think that Baba, I respect Baba very well.
All right.
But I think it's not in everything that Baba must be heard. For instance, I think Baba should be more worried about NDDC not performing its role because of corruption.
But do you think his argument is invalid? Like, look, there's no reason to take away the Niger Delta ministry.
I will argue that there was no reason in the first place to create the Niger Delta ministry. I will argue that, and I'll tell you why.
Why?
What does the job of the ministry entails? It coordinates and formulates policies. The actual spending of the funds meant for Niger Delta is given to NDDC.
But NDDC has also been performing badly.
So, now,
poorly.
Performing badly or not be performing badly or performing well?
The NDDC, the performance has been so bad.
In fact, the bulk of the funds have been stolen over the years. So I think that's
they have a ministry, they have the NDDC, nothing is happening.
You see, NDDC represents what the Northeast Development Commission represents for the people of Northeast. Now, is Baba saying that we also have to create Ministry of Northeast Development?
No. What they now have is the Ministry of Regional Development.
That's what I'm saying.
Now, this is the problem.
And that incorporates all the
Development Commission.
Yes.
And what people are saying is that, look, if you want to create a ministry to coordinate these development commissions, create it. Not take what the Niger Delta already has. No, not subsume it.
No, what they didn't take what Niger Delta had. They renamed, they expanded
the scope,
the responsibility, and the scope of what the further ministry. But they removed this completely.
But what Edwin Clark is saying is that, look, we know that the Niger Delta ministry is domiciled, and that, look, somebody from Niger Delta must always be the minister.
That has not been true for a long time. I hope you know that.
I know.
Yes.
But what they are saying is that, look, if you have a ministry that's supposed to focus on the Niger Delta, that will now be focusing on the entire country, then there's a problem somewhere.
No, there's not a problem. Let me tell you, the job of the ministry is simply coordination, and that's the President Tinubu has done something right, in my own opinion.
All right.
What he has done is narrowed down the job of the ministry, in the sense that it will just simply be coordination. The Niger Delta Development
Commission,
NDDC, spends the funds that is allocated to them from the federal government, the 13% that goes to the government and all that. The one in the north will do the same thing. So what the
every region has a development commission.
You know, it's just that in this country we are used to too many ministers. The United States has 18 cabinet ministers.
And they have 50 states.
Much bigger than the country, has more population, and they're talking about 18. Okay, look at the president creating Ministry of Livestock.
Out of the Ministry of Agriculture.
It doesn't need that. The Ministry of Agriculture, you could have created a department of livestock, and look for somebody who is well experienced in that area to manage and report to the ministry.
Create a whole ministry for livestock. So what happens to the agricultural ministry?
Exactly. Now, I also support the fact that he took away the Ministry of Sports
and give it to the Sports Commission.
Look how many. Look around you, apart from African countries. How many countries in the world have Minister of Sport, Secretary of Sport? So, have you ever heard about it in the United States?
The sports commissions run the sports, the sporting activities of those countries.
Exactly. So I support him, as far as that decision is concerned. And also, even the Minister of Sport wasn't doing very well.
He was missing in action, actually.
You saw what happened during the Olympics and how he tried to explain it away.
But I think it was also he was played out of his.
Some of these decisions, look, I support that he merged some of the ministry, and I'm against the fact that he created some other ministries. But as far as it has to do with the Ministry of what did they call it? Interregional
development. Regional development.
I support him because the responsibility. We can't create a new ministry for every development commission. That means we are going to have 6 ministries doing that alone.
But any hopes for that these new development commissions will be different from what we've seen of the NDDC and even the Northeast Development Commission?
You see, anything built and manufactured in Nigeria has a label of corruption. And until we're able to deal with that,
so you no hope really.
Look, all these commissions are just going to be.
Then why do we even development commission when we have governors, we have local government chairmen? So are they going to be doing anything different?
Well, they believe that there are particular things that we're extracting from these parts of the country. Actually, the one from the Northeast came about as a result of pressure from people of the Northeast and say, okay, if you are taking crude oil from the Niger Delta and you are giving them special funds,
13%,
why can't you also give to us? Because you're taking some other things from our own part of the country. You're taking gold in Zamfara and too many. So this is why these things happen. But the point I'm trying to make is that we cannot create a ministry for each of these development commissions. So the president did the right thing by creating a ministry to take care of
all the development commissions,
all the activities.
Okay.
The key functions of what these groups are supposed to do still lies within the development commissions, the NDDC, and all of that. So, Clark and others should focus on these commissions and see that they perform their statutory roles.
Okay, well, let's go out to the United States. Let's quickly talk about the U.S. politics. It's getting very intense. It's interesting. I think maybe for the first time in my monitoring of the U.S. elections, this is so unpredictable. Really, the polls have been. I don't know. It's difficult really to go with any polls at this time because even the polls are being very careful. The pollsters are really being very careful because the margin is so close. But Michelle Obama is out. Barack Obama has been campaigning. I think Beyonce recently also came out campaigning for Kamala Harris. While they are doing that, Elon Musk came up with something that has become very controversial. I think the Department of Justice have also issued a warning to say that this is looking like vote buying. And they gave sections of the U.S. Constitution that frowns at what he's trying to do. But he has not stopped it. He's still giving out the $1 million daily.
Where he believes that is above the law. That's
because he has a lot of money?
And he doesn't believe in conventions. I mean, in his companies. But of course, the United States has institutions. They pull him in
can take care of
when the
things
right
like
time
that.
comes. You remember how he tweeted that he's taking Tesla out of the stock market, hoping that funds were coming in from the Saudis. And when that did not happen, he paid over $100 million as penalty. So that is not, for me, that's not a big issue.
Okay, well, let's look at where we are, the permutations now.
So, looking at the polls, as someone who has an idea about how polling is done, polling depends on too many factors, but the most important two are what the person being polled says to you. And it depends on whether they are truthful or they are deceitful. And then you look at their pedigree, how they had voted in the past elections. Okay, these are things that's how you look at a county and say it's a blue county or a red county or it's purple because they keep swinging. Now, having said that, the polls are tight. It's a dead heat, Some said it's a jump ball. Anybody can win it. Now, if you look at all the polling agencies, Real Clear Politics, 538, that is net saver. Yeah, you look at Gallup.
Yeah.
You look at New York Times, and
even the CNN polls too.
CNN, and all of them. The fact is that these polls have been wrong in the past. They can still be wrong.
I remember that
because of 2016.
Hillary.
Yes,
even Hillary, it
yes.
was I think the polls were completely wrong.
What about 2020? Again, Trump was ahead
until
for most of the projections that he was going to win. And
what are the polls saying now, Barrister Curtis?
So the polls are saying it's a dead hit. Okay, because wherever you find Trump leading, it's either +1, and wherever you find Kamala, it's either +1 or +2 or +2, and of course
margins,
the margin of error is +3.
So you can cancel it out, really.
So you can cancel. That's why it's going to be a turnout election.
What happens on election day?
How do you get out your voters? The person who can get out the votes wins the election. And we're seeing what is happening in the swing state. Like you observe, Michelle Obama was in Kalamazoo last night, and the purpose was for her to whip out the women,
black women, yes,
to go out and vote. All right, and at the point, like you saw, she got emotional trying to explain what women go through and how Trump should not be in the White House to superintend
on the affairs of women.
That process. She also talked about the fact that Kamala is held to higher standards.
Yeah, why you dropping the ball, dropping the standards for Donald Trump. So they felt she went too personal.
She has to articulate policies. She's
not saying anything.
Room for interviews.
We don't know her.
He wouldn't even do. But you pick what she said in the interview, and like Van Joon said, Kamala has to be flawless, while Trump has to be lawless.
Nobody cares, really.
Nobody cares. They simply say, let Trump be Trump. However, I think he appeals to a group of voters in America.
That's Trump or Kamala now?
Trump.
Okay.
The working class. White male, evangelicals, working class. Those who believe that he's God sent and that he is the one who relates closely to what they believe.
Yeah.
You're talking about conservative values. You're talking about liberal values. But again, like I've always explained, the report have people who are conservative,
balance of the two,
who is pro-choice, and then the Democratic Party. They're also not made up of all demons. You also have Democrats who are opposed to abortion for whatever reason.
So you have a balance of the two ideologies.
Yes, and that's why in the past we've had Reagan Democrats, Obama Republicans. When people cross party lines and they vote in the interest of the country.
Trump is going after trying to woo Muslim Americans, again talking about what is happening in the Middle East. Trump would always boast that while he was the president, we didn't have all these wars. He was able to handle them. Nobody would have done what they did now, what they are doing now, if I was the president. And I think I've listened to a number of Muslim Americans, in fact some of them who are Congress members, who are members of the Congress, who are saying that look, would rather vote for Donald Trump than vote for Kamala, because they felt that look, the Biden administration failed woefully with the Middle East crisis.
They are responding to their emotions, and I am not here supporting Kamala or supporting Trump, but I will tell you what happened to Muslims when Trump was president. He was the one to put a ban on all Muslims coming to America. Trump, of course, recognized Jerusalem as the eternal capital of Israel,
which others had never tried to do.
Exactly. Trump is wearing the same shoes with Benjamin Netanyahu. So if any Muslims in America thinks that...
In fact, there are people who have said that, look, the reason why Benjamin is going on with the war is to create the pathway for Trump to emerge.
For Trump. And look,
that's why he's not even backing down with the war.
And what people don't understand is that President Biden had called Benjamin Netanyahu to order by saying, we're not going to give you weapons if you continue. He ignored the president and went on, because they have a huge stockpile of arms already. So if anybody thinks that Kamala as the vice president is the one that can stop Benjamin Netanyahu, then they don't understand how these things work. Okay? And that's why you are hearing Kamala saying, I'm not going to continue with Biden's policy. Yes, he achieved a lot, but there are things that we could have done differently. Yes. So, and I think Joe Biden's strategies, Trump's strategy is very clear. I will eat into the Democratic caucus or coalition of black, brown, and white
people of color, Muslims.
Now, it feels that if the turnout of the blacks and Latino voters,
it's not that substantial.
Ethnic minorities, if it's not as high as the Obama or Biden level, that he is going to win. And so what he's doing is basically trying to eat into that group.
That bulk.
But as he's doing that, he's also losing a critical part of the Republican coalition. Moderate Republicans, represented people like Liz Cheney and her father, Dick Cheney.
Yeah, I think Liz was also on the podium for Kamala, which was a bit strange for some people.
Close to 700 Republicans who had worked with Trump, sort of like calling 911, calling their 911 to the Americans and said, "Don't go near this guy at all." General McMilley, Chairman Joint Chief of Staff, said he's a fascist. He says he wants his generals to behave like Hitler's generals.
I even had talked about Hitler.
John Kelly, first-time Marine General, his longest serving Chief of Staff, said this guy is not good. He's not fit to occupy the Oval Office. General James Mattis, former Defense Secretary, said this guy never attempts to unite the country.
It's just been divisive.
Yes. John Kelly said he's the most flawed human being he has ever encountered in his life.
But does all of this matter to his support base?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't, because like he said, he can stand at the Madison Square, kill somebody, and he still won't lose a vote. And that is because when you have a populist nationalist, and this is their modus operandi, they have to scapegoat people, and their go-to scapegoat are immigrants. And that's where you hear
demonize them,
always talking about the borders. The borders are open.
Immigrants
they are allowing criminals.
People.
Yes, they are allowing criminals to come into our country. They are allowing their worst prisoners, criminals. They just open the borders for them to come into the country. But the reality is that immigrants are also very, very useful in the United States. America was conceived as an immigrant nation. Trump himself is not originally an American.
He's an immigrant.
He came from Germany. Kamala came from India and Jamaica. Obama, Kenya. Joe Biden from is an Irish. So all of them congregated.
So suddenly he's forgotten his own roots
in America. But the race is tight. And as you see right now, Kamala's strategy is to say to the American people, he's unhinged. He has become unstable.
Untrusted with power.
He's lost his pace. He's no longer coherent. This is not the guy you want to put in charge.
But let's look at the swing states, Barrister Curtis. We have Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Arizona. In the past, we've seen Florida, Ohio, New Hampshire being part of the swing states.
Yes.
Is it just limited to these 7?
Yes.
And why do we just have these 7 now?
Because of demographic change.
Okay.
Florida, of course, in places like Miami-Dade, that's where you're going to have. These are swing counties. That's where the bulk of the votes will come from. And if you talk about Latinos, you're talking about Cuban Latinos. You're talking about Latinos from Venezuela. They are different to those from Mexico and others, so they have different priorities. It's not, the Latino community is not monolithic like the black somehow. Now, Florida used to be
a swing state,
a battleground
state.
But Trump changed state from New York to Florida. He now lives in Florida.
So they think, that can actually go to him.
Yes, and as a result of changing demographics, again, he's going to win Florida. And I think with about 22 votes.
Ohio?
No, 29 votes.
Ohio used to be a battleground state too.
No, not as much. The last Democrat to win Ohio was Barack Obama. Nobody else. It's been a long time. Arizona, in fact, Biden was the first Democrat to win Arizona in almost since 1986. The same thing for Georgia since 1992 or so. The last Democrat to win Georgia was Bill Clinton. You understand?
Yes.
So it's been a long time. So, but that these states are in play, Georgia, Arizona is because of changing demographics. Don't forget that in 2020, Biden won Arizona, and the bulk of the votes came from Maricopa County, which is the biggest county. In Nevada, again, is the Brown County. That is happening, and that's why you see these candidates, bastorming
those counties,
now,
so it's not even about the states now, no. Those specific counties,
there are counties that are blue and red, and then in the
so they matter, not even the entire state.
No, like if you go to Pennsylvania, you're looking at Erie. Erie is a very small place. You are looking at Butler, the place Trump was shot.
That community, yeah.
Yes. So these are swing. They call them bellwether
states,
counties.
Counties. Sorry.
Yes. So then you look at North Carolina. North Carolina has not been played for a long time, but this time it's in play. And that's why you see Trump going back and forth to North Carolina.
Then leaving that state, yeah.
Yes. And I think from what we are hearing so far from the votes cast, it looks like it's very tight for both candidates.
Even in North Carolina.
Even in North Carolina. Trump has been to rally North Carolina over 4 times. So also Kamala. And in Georgia also it's tough. You saw the rally by Obama
yes,
in Georgia.
In Georgia. But finally, so that we can open the phone lines, Barrister, there are people who also think that, look, one of the reasons why Kamala may not win this one, just like Hillary, is that the American people are not ready to have a female president. Do you think that sentiment is anything to take seriously?
Apart from racism, the other force is sexism. There are those who believe that Madam President should not happen in their lifetime. But they are also up against the biggest voting bloc, the women. Especially younger women.
But don't you think even the women are the people who are actually putting out this sentiment, really? I've seen a number of women who are not even ready to vote for a woman.
No, Democrats have always won that demographic. But I tell you, the difference this time around is that you have younger women who have the Gen Zs, who have no respect for these things.
For the old order and these sentiments.
If they turn out, because Kamala is leading Trump by 21 percentage point when it comes to that
the block of women votes. Yeah.
While Trump is ahead, I think by 11 or 12 with men. And that's why you try to see Kamala peel off white men again by appealing to their sentiment. When you listen to Obama, when he was talking to black guys, he said, look, this whole idea that you don't believe a woman should be president, it belongs to the
old ages.
And that's what Michelle was also trying to do yesterday by appealing to the women. Do you know that under Obama, black women turned out 99%?
So what's happening now? Why are they so laid back? And you could see with Michelle the frustration.
That's why she tries to, put herself in the middle of action, and then try to rally the troops out. Now, I think that the polls are significantly wrong. Yes, I think there will be a winner, and that winner is going to win massively. It could be either way. It's either Kamala wins and wins big, or Trump wins and wins big. Now, nobody even expect that this race will be where it is right now. If you recall,
the Biden era was becoming a one-way thing. Yeah.
And the campaign team of Trump then was between being strong and being weak, because Biden was weak as a result of
and they were able to really put out that sentiment at that time.
But now he lost that edge. In fact, he's the one now suffering from that, because Kamala is saying he's old. Obama is
but the standard they are putting Kamala to is even more disturbing than the issue of weakness or being strong, because the standard of she's not talking, we don't know her, she's not really saying anything. Yeah,
that's sexism, because if she talks, they say, oh, she's an angry black woman. If she doesn't talk,
she's not saying enough.
She's not saying enough. She talks about policies like, everyone who wants to buy a house, we get $25,000 from the government as seed money. She talked about cutting the cost of insulin and healthcare. You understand? Talks about giving child welfare and all those things, but nobody's talking about that. Now, when you listen, and I'm not saying this because I prefer one candidate to the other, because I watch all their rallies. And as I go to the US this week, I'm going to find and attend some of their rallies. Closing rallies.
And very interesting, really. I've been to
Trump rally. And he could speak for the next 2 hours
without saying anything.
And all he does is to
conspiracy theories, rally of the base. But they enjoy it actually.
Yes, he was in Detroit, Michigan, where he was even abusing the city of Detroit. And the funny thing is that those who believe in Trump,
yes,
they just don't care about whatever he says and what he does.
They just like his face. They like him, and that's all.
The other day he was in Pennsylvania. He spoke in a monologue for 12 minutes, and all he talked about was the penis of a golf player.
I doubt if they really listen to what he says. I
no,
think
they don't.
They just
and then see. I also want to explain something for both campaigns. The crowd you see in these rallies
are the diehard fans.
Are not organic crowd in the sense that those crowds are not from that state alone.
Okay, so they move around with them.
There are people who, wherever Kamara goes, they pay money to be there.
Okay.
And there are those
they pay money to be there because when you say the crowd is not organic in Nigeria, you know what that means.
Yes, I know.
So I was
themselves there. But and then there are some people like some women, and there are some men. Like the Proud Boys, all kind of groups that
move around really.
Wherever Trumps go, in fact, they go there 3 days ahead to come and congregate. That's why you have this last
political roundtable mainland 98.3. Why Danjuma that was the next president of the United States of America.
Whoever becomes the president will not end the war by decree. The issues are deep and fundamental.
But again, people are worried about Trump.
Ukraine has not given up his desire to join the European Union.
Yes,
and Trump will not stop the Ukraine.
But what about NATO? People are worried because with the initial with what Trump believes as the too much contribution of the United States to NATO and the fact that look, America cannot continue to fund NATO. Don't you think that could be serious trouble for Ukraine when it comes to capacity of NATO to continue to support them against Russia?
I think Europe can support NATO, but
they've not been doing enough, Barrister Curtis, whether we like it or not.
They will start doing. Now, let me tell you something. I think people do not understand that America's position in the world is as a result of the role America is playing.
But Trump is saying, look, America first.
When you talk about American first, don't forget that this alliance also benefits America. We saw what happened in Libya. The European countries were the one that actually took over in bombing Gaddafi.
Gaddafi,
yeah. America just provided guidance. European countries also gather intelligence that they pass to the United States.
So shared intelligence also matters.
So this is an alliance that benefits both
Europe and the United States.
The United States. So for him to casually say, it's America first. Don't forget that America first retreats from the world. All right? And America's leadership is based on the role that he's playing.
And its capacity to really have that spread.
If there is any time, or there is any time America needed to reach out more, it's now, and I'll tell you why. With China,
do more globally. That's what you're saying.
With China and Russia and some other countries coming together to form BRICS,
and expanding that community of nations.
Now, my only worry is China being in that group, because if you look at the global economy, America is still number one. I think with about $28 trillion economy, followed by China that is about 21 or 20 trillion. Russia is far behind. But Russia has got military arsenals, and if Russia teams up with China, and then they're able to bring other African countries and around the world.
So the US cannot afford to lose that global dominance. Is that what you're saying?
It has to be careful. So this whole lot talk about, because even today, let me tell you, it talks about tariffs. Yes, Joe Biden kept some of the tariffs, but who will suffer from the tariffs? Americans will suffer. The prices of everything will go up. What is America producing today? Yes, you have manufacturing giants in America, but most of them are sourcing their production outside of the United States. Like Tim Cook, the chief executive of Apple, said, China today has the highest pool of technical skills, not America.
So it's not about cheap labor, it's about even technical skills.
It's about the skills. Then in every household you can find people who will give you what you're looking
who can
for.
Produce something.
Yes, and they are more dedicated to their works compared to American engineers.
They have to pay through your nose to get their service. Well, okay, let's open the phone line 09136000410 091 08036000410. Political Roundtable, Mainland 98.3 FM. Yes, let's start to take the calls. You can also drop your submissions on our Facebook and YouTube platform. Hello, good evening.
Good evening. I'm Coyote from Abeokuta.
You're welcome.
Let me quickly do. I greet Barrister
Curtis.
The Lord bless you, sir.
Thank
Happy
you.
Sunday.
Same to you.
In fact, you are a wonderful man. You are now a phenomenon on mainland radio.
Thank you, sir.
Let me say this, sir. You see, FWAP, I will only dwell inside the nation building you talked about.
All right, the first issue.
Obasanjo, yes, he told us that Nigeria is disintegrating, or we haven't gotten quality
leaders.
Yes. You see, I discover, yes, truly this evening, that Obasanjo had opportunities he would have given to us to develop, to deploy in making us greater as a country. But unfortunately, he lost that.
The debt forgiveness, that's what you're saying?
Yes, that's just it. Then let me say this. I think it's high time that the judiciary now knew the reason why they were there, because we have different things that is cut off for them. You have the opportunity of separation of power, the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. And I believe that judiciary has opportunity to probably make decision and be full. In what am I saying? Yes, in what I'm saying is this. Recently we were protesting against all this bad governance in the country. And then the judiciary was in tandem with the executive. Look, you need to not to go extra mile or outside this when I'm not giving you food.
All right, thank you.
And you must stay inside a box or a room so that neighbors will not hear you well.
All right, thank you, Mr.
The judiciary should come up, sir, to be able to do something for us.
Hello, good evening. Hello?
You?
Yeah, good evening.
Only two words, man, in the studio.
Yes, good evening, Prince Wise.
Thank you, madam. May God bless you all.
How is Amod of in this evening?
Amod, we did campaign.
Right. Please go on, sir.
We'll soon give him the mayor of Amod.
Oh. Let me just remain peaceful. This is number one. For America, anybody that emerged, I'm not concerned.
Okay.
I've been having problem with America since 1948. Because if America did not support the United Nations to create problem in this country, it won't be like this. But it's 1948. When you talk of United Nations, they are triple bulldogs. They are being controlled by America. So if America want peace in the world, this will interfere and make us Palestine have their own state. That's for that. And for the Baba Obasanjo, when Baba speak, I will feel fine. But immediately castigate any president after him, I rise up against Baba. If he say we contribute to the of Nigeria, I will agree with him. But when he isolating himself, I continue writing letter against any government in power, I agree with him. When you talk of the situation we are facing now, the formation of this country should go to start by Baba. At better time, when you have problem with Kokori, our foreign refinery was has already collapsed. Since then, up to this, nothing was. So Baba, if he talk, yes, I appreciate him, but he's not talker. If he has every passport,
opportunity.
He have even though if you want to talk to a leader now, you have every opportunity to go to Asiro to go and advise. But go to page of newspaper to talk, disagree with him. Finally, Nigeria will rise again, but the President Tinubu must rise to the occasion and give Nigeria what we want.
Right.
What we want is better government. Mechanized farming is the key.
Right.
We can feed ourselves. That's what I'm saying this evening.
God bless you, Prince Wise. Yes, he is an advocate of mechanized farming.
On the Israel, okay.
Yes, good evening.
Let the callers call first.
Good evening.
Good evening. Nobody can give you this.
Yeah.
Okay. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Ebute-Metta.
Why is Ebute-Metta?
Very well.
You stay in the east or the west of Ebute-Metta?
I think around central, around Adekunle.
You want to contest from there to know where it's living?
I would like to.
That's Adekunle is east, right? Ebute-Metta east.
Yeah, Adekunle.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Please go on, Joshua.
See, my major concern today is because I've been rooting for Barrister's prediction. Okay. You must drop the prediction. No. So I don't,
from his analysis, you should know where his mind is, really.
No, let me
this energy is putting into analyzing US election, and it's not this full knowledge. If you don't predict, I won't be happy.
Said you should predict.
I will give you my prediction
before the end of the show. Don't worry.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. That was all, Gigi Joshua? Oh, okay. He just wants you to predict. All right. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening. Forward.
Yes. Your name and where are you calling from?
That is Mr. Lucky calling from Yanakbaja.
Okay, Mr. Lucky, please go on.
I enjoy your program.
Thank you.
And the only thing I want to say about Obasanjo had tried his best. We should not blame him much because when they took over from the military, nobody was sure whether they would go or they would take over. So, assuming that Obasanjo did what he wants to do, maybe the military will have come back. So that is why they said if a cow inside a shop, you try to pet him out, because if you pursue that cow, you will destroy the whole shop. I think that is what Obasanjo did. So if what the president Tinubu is doing today, if Obasanjo would have done that, I bet the military would have come back. But I say, it's not blame the man. I think that if you read Obasanjo regime, at least the lawmakers, they have man to challenge the executive. They still have law now, but when they put the the lawmaker are dead. As I'm telling you, you don't make any comment. Look at this regime. We are talking about rubber stamp, but this time it's not rubber stamp. It's marginal stamp with iron. It's not really well.
All right.
So
thank you,
for me, Obasanjo is the best person we ever have. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Hello, good evening. Hello.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
This is Jeff from Apapa.
Jeff.
Yes, from
Apapa. Please go on, Jeff.
So I want to say something. Talking about Obasanjo. Most people think that Obasanjo was a great man. In my own point of view, if Obasanjo, in all his military era, as a lion as he claimed to be, he should have told the House of Assembly and the Senate to cut their dues. But he signed it to them. And the problem keep on. How will you call for something that you, at that time, you cannot even stand off? That is why sometimes people talk about Obasanjo. Obasanjo, he has power supposed to be given to the citizen. Secondly, people talk about the judiciary. Children don't understand how the judiciary, because he knows that giving these people money, they did not care about us. So at the end of the day, if you check Nigeria policy, it starts from the judiciary. If the judiciary are serious about us, they should do the needful. And they get what the president has offered to them and tell them, we need our country back. If not, you are going nowhere. That is my own take on this issue.
Thank you, Jeff, from Papa. God bless you. All right. Hello, good evening. Hello?
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
This is Okangolina.
Oh, Mr. Okangolina. How is Mafoluku?
We are here, no light.
You and those, I think that Mafoluku has a problem with IKDs. Now, don't collect person wife for Mafoluku.
I don't know.
All right, please go on.
The barrister was talking about Obasanjo, and he said that he would have wished that rather than the debt cancellation, he should have invested in infrastructure.
Infrastructure, yes.
I disagree with you,
what he
you
said,
trust,
calm down.
You cannot trust Nigerian leaders with the so-called infrastructure. You can't trust them at all.
You are right.
Yes, Buhari was touted to have been building infrastructure, and money was going to private pockets. Till today, we didn't see any infrastructure. From abroad of him was
but you at least you have seen the second Niger bridge.
We have not seen any infrastructure.
What of
people have started with infrastructure?
Mr. Can't believe out of the second Niger bridge.
The rail lines.
And the rail lines.
We were told that there is a better route that they used.
No, part of the route.
We are here watching them. They said much of that money was from the Bata loan.
But the money that was paid back for the loan,
yes,
we have taken more loan than that now.
That's the problem. So you cannot trust any Nigerian leader with infrastructure. These people have started again with infrastructure.
But you know the problem, Mr. Karia, we paid back the loan now, got debt forgiveness. Now we are back in worse off than when we paid the loan.
Now that's the problem. It's better. Look, it's better that the council that if they had said they should go back, they should do infrastructure. The debt portfolio now would have been 10 times what we have presently. I'm telling you.
All right.
And then, secondly, you people mentioned briefly about the president telling ministers to have 3 cars.
3 vehicles, yes.
Yes. But the man himself, when he's coming to Lagos, the last time he came, there was about 150 cars waiting for him.
Is the president?
So when you are telling your ministers, what is happening to yourself?
We wait to see whether he's going to cut his own. He has not said anything about his own, really.
And also, Mr. Kangobelina, I also wish that the president will order all the ministries to start using CNG cars now.
Has he changed it to CNG?
CNG.
When you are doing something, do yourself first.
All right, let's take some messages on Facebook. The messages keeps piling up already, and it would just be nice to touch some of the messages. I would have to, for the 2 messages that are too long. We just take
Oniba.
Abdurrahman is the first on the list. In fact, he drops his submission before we start the show.
Yes.
As we start the show, he drops his submission. So,
correct.
But we appreciate his commitment, really. Abdurrahman from Ojo. Good evening to you all, men of God in the studio. Alabalakwe from Sabo Ijewo Niba Ojo. It's very unfortunate if some past leaders like OBJ could still talk on national issues. Have you guys forgotten how OBJ had solid 8 years as president of this country? Please, how far and how well has Baba OBJ done? Look, truth be told, the likes of OBJ also have questions to answer on how Nigeria is today. Assuming OBJ has done the needful, I don't think any other president could be struggling to help Nigeria out of the long years of woes. Okay, let's just leave it at that because there are so many messages to deal with. Ando Sekamel is saying, when we are assessing the past presidents of Nigeria, we must always take into consideration the context under which he came in 1999. He came straight from prison where he had spent 5 years. The military had emptied the coffers and messed everything around. Okay, well, so during the first term, 1999 to 2003, he had to also take into consideration the interest of those who brought him in. In all, he had performed those who came after him. Okay, Atondaka, someone is saying, what a beautiful way to drive home the truth that the current Wahala traceable to the past, especially with the military heads, and the only one that has the opportunity for being civilian president. Really appreciate Barrister Curtis' bottom line that those past messengers have no morality as to what is happening today. Barrister Curtis' theory was actually correct, as Yabo confirmed a father's plot. Okay. Then we also have Andos is still saying all this talk about Obasanjo knowing that was terminally ill is babadash. No human being can determine when a person is sick or when they will die, but Obasanjo knew he was sick actually. So that's a statement of fact. When he would die, he may not know. But every Nigerian knew that Yaradua was sick at that time. So
I think some people don't even read what they write.
So everybody knew he was sick.
So if somebody is sick, people will not know that he's sick.
We all knew he was sick. He would, what do you think when he was saying, "Oh, Yaradua, are you dead?" They say you are dead.
Umaru
died. His achievements, Abuja. Well, talking about achievements of OBJ now, he's saying Abuja National Stadium, National Open University, $70 billion in foreign reserve, a strong naira, a very low inflation rate, a better security situation. Well, all right, that Olajide Peter say, good evening, sir. Special thanks to Barrister Curtis Adiba for taking us through another thoughtful and expository political class this evening. On the issue of Baba OBJ, my conclusion is that he that will go to equity must come with clean hands. Milan FM School of Factual Politics. Thank you, Dada Olajide Peters. We have John Bernardo. He say, my own contribution is that this reshuffle is nothing. Why not scrap the Ministry of Police Affairs and Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy and take their functions back to the Ministry of Interior and Ministry of Transportation? Can you tell me what Ibrahim Gaidam and WG=Oyetola are doing. We talked about WG, and I think the Minister of Police too.
And there's another minister there, somebody digging Yadi.
Yeah,
I think he's returning. He was minister under Buhari.
Under Buhari, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting that a minister under Buhari will be returning, We have Awolo Christopher saying Obasanjo has spoken well. Let's take the messenger, not the messenger. But in any case, we have entered one chance vehicle. Okay, Sunday Noah is saying, notwithstanding some human errors, about Obasanjo's government, but there was no bandits, no kidnappers, no terrorists, and the cost of living wasn't at this hellish peak. That's from Noah from Igodo.
Make not allow me tell the truth about that,
Well, that's a good evening, Cross. For cabinet, the trouble is more or less loyalty. Now, cash is not the reason to know if I got the money to buy his Escalade jet and the yacht. He should go there and get the money to fix the refineries and tackle food insecurity. Prince Shola Shudeke say, good evening. What is Mr. Curtis' view on Jeff Bezos, Washington Post, and other newspapers refusal to endorse presidential candidates? Is it because of Trump? Yes, the major media outlets are not endorsing for the first time.
The one in California, the Los Angeles Times said it is because of the situation in Gaza. But the one in Washington, the Washington Post, of course, the editor at large has resigned. Some other people are also resigning. I think the fear they have, Jeff Bezos has been having a running battle with Trump. If you recall, there was a major contract that when Trump was president, Amazon would have won, which Trump did not allow Jeff Bezos. So I think he wants to play it safe, considering that the polls are very tight.
So they are afraid to take a stand.
Yes,
which is strange.
And that is terrible because for a country, America is a beacon of democracy. And this is why I've said dictatorship is possible anywhere in the world. It simply depends if the dictator can find pliable men,
people who are willing to cooperate.
That's all. Nothing more than that.
All right.
And that's what you are seeing, loading the fact that the Washington Post does not endorse Kamala, because that's what they would have done. Because it's
of course that's always the position.
If she's not going to win the election, that endorsement will not win her the vote. Did you understand?
Of course, yes.
And if she's going to win, not endorsing her.
Do you think in the last 8 days there could be anything really substantial to swing the victory?
We didn't have.
Don't you think it's all done and dusted, really?
No, I don't think so. We didn't have.
So there are still these last minute things that can happen.
We didn't have October surprise. Any major October surprise?
Surprise, yes.
Yet, and we are still in.
And
October.
It's not impossible.
It's not impossible. Remember James Comey? How he suddenly reopened.
That was a killer for Hillary, really. That unnecessary distraction that came at the last minute.
Both campaigns are praying for something not to happen that would destroy that campaign.
No, a lot of people are looking at Benjamin Netanyahu that could do something crazy, really.
Well, again, you remember how in 2004 Osama bin Laden swung the vote in favor of Bush.
Yes.
When he said that John Kerry then, who was running, if Americans felt that they were going to depend more on Kerry to save them, that they were wasting their time. And that was interpreted by the Bush campaign to mean that you cannot fire a commander-in-chief of a country that is at war. And that the fact that Osama bin Laden feels that is more comfortable
with Kerry.
With Kerry, I mean that for those who are interested in national security.
So the interpretation was
yes, just like Putin saying, "I prefer Kamala Harris to win."
It's deliberately.
It's deliberate. We know. We know what he wants.
All right, 091.
That's what he said.
Yes. All right, we'll take one or two more calls before we call it a day on the show. Hello, good evening. Hello. Okay. All right. So, okay. You have hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Yeah, my name is Bolaji from Ijoku.
All right, Bolaji from Ijoku. You need to speak louder, please.
Okay, Barrister Curtis, good evening.
Good evening.
So, the way you share your view on the OBJ pronouncement is really, I'm not comfortable with it, but no problem. But my view is this, on policy pronouncement, who do you think OBJ was talking to? OBJ was talking directly to President Tinubu, who just ascended throne and paid subsidy. All these things she was to this nonsense we are witnessing today. The economic the disruption, or everything is gone. All our livelihood is gone. Everything is gone. You remember, even during the time of OBJ, the first time, he was trying to, he went to the National Assembly, trying to take away immunity from all those leaders. If you remember, check your history very well. So we should always take the messenger. No, I mean take the message. Don't the messenger.
We should leave the messenger.
We should stop. If we want to, the messenger is about OBJ. We should take the message, not the messenger.
Okay, thank you.
All right, sir. Let me ask you: if Obasanjo had succeeded in turning around the refineries after spending billions of dollars, do you think that Tinubu will need to remove subsidy?
Absolutely, you are correct on that. But we are talking of now. If you want to
sorry, sir. The second question
must be on that.
Hold on, sir. Former President Buhari said Obasanjo spent 16 billion on electricity. Where is the power? If we had stable electricity, will Tinubu be removing subsidy on electricity? So no, I'm not saying that Obasanjo. If you listen to me carefully, I didn't say Obasanjo was completely wrong.
We also talked about his achievements.
He did some things nice. Do you understand that? But they had better opportunity to have set the country on a better trajectory. That's all I said.
My own now is how do we go forward? Where do we go from here? Let us stop all this complaining. Today complain about Ijoko Road.
No, it's right to speak, but the Ijoko Road is your governor in Lagos, not
in Ogun State,
not Ogun State, not Obasanjo or Tinubu.
It's frustrating really for people who live in that part of Ogun State.
Especially this governor of Ogun State.
These are man.
Aye, this governor. Oh no. Let's see. I don't want to pass my judgment on him yet.
Hello, good evening.
Is Sandra's governor?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Fraud. Barrister, good evening.
Yes, we're with you.
Yeah, my name is Mr. Sunday, calling from Ikeja.
All right, Mr. Sunday.
Yeah. I want to talk about this Obasanjo administration.
Okay.
The former, yes. Obasanjo, for me, I will keep on saying all this thing every day. Obasanjo was the best in his time. From Jonathan to Buhari to this Tinubu, they have not even given half of the best of Obasanjo. If they did, we would not be in this kind of situation. We will not be at all. I know what would have been. I don't know how the economy would have been.
Let me ask you. Let me ask you a question, Mr. Sunday. If a building suddenly collapses, are you aware that sometimes it's not because the roof is too heavy? Don't you think that sometimes it could be a foundational issue?
Yes, the foundation of Obasanjo was shaking. Yes. Okay, as the people were complaining, say the foundation is shaking. If it's called for a renovation, okay, the person that is called for the renovation, he will go there and destroy the foundation again, and the building will finally collapse. Who is the cause? It's the person who claims that is going there for renovation. So I believe that the people who took over from Obasanjo, assuming they did exactly, they follow the way of Obasanjo stuff, I don't think we will come to this place. Because like Tinubu say, I want to follow that. He say he will follow from where Buhari stopped. Take it now.
All right. Well, that will be the last call for the evening on Political Roundtable Mainland. Yes.
Let me tell
your prediction before we forget.
Yes, I will predict. But let me tell you something. You see, people do not understand that government is like a relay. One runner has to do very well
for the other to
hand over to the other person to take off if the team wants to win. Now, where the first two set of runners perform badly, the last two has to do over more than what they are required
for them to win the race.
And this is where most people are missing the point that Obasanjo, if Obasanjo, who started this republic, the Fourth Republic, has laid a solid foundation, turn around our refineries and all that. Some of the things we are talking about today, we'll not be talking about them. There would have been no need to remove subsidy from.
And that does not say that the people we have now are doing better than it. We're just saying that there was a foundational issue. Yes,
they are not even close.
Well, Mr. Curtis, your prediction, because we need to leave the studio.
So
the Joshua will not forgive me if I allow you go without predicting who you think will win the US election.
most people think that she doesn't have a chance.
That's Kamala.
But
you think she's going to win?
I think she will win.
All right. So, Gigi Joshua, you have your prediction. By Sir Curtis rooting and thinking that Kamala would win. Well, that's what we call it today. Political Roundtable, Mainland 98.3 FM. My name is Sahid Fuad. Let's do this again next week.